So Crossings VR is a fantasy game that is pretty fun to play, but in today's video, I'll be showing you guys the full beginner tutorial on how you can actually get better at the game as a complete beginner. So watch the full video because I show you guys many different tips and tricks that most beginners wouldn't know, and I'll show you guys all of the basic tips to get you on your way. Okay, so this is the area where you have these statues. So if I look around, or I spin around, you can see we're going to have all of these statues. Now, all of these statues are different in the sense that they give you the ability to have a different potion slash spell. And as I was saying, if you just press your menu item, not the menu, if you press the B button, you're essentially able to pull up the menu, and with that you're able to see exactly what spells you have. Now, like I said, if you want to see exactly what they're going to be able to do, this one has roots that keep them for a while. This one has the spikes of ice, and I found that this one was super useful. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Now, it is locked in until you die next time. So if you do have a spell, you're essentially, betting on this so that you can eventually defeat the boss from wherever it is that you came. So we're going to continue our journey on. And another quick tip is the lights. So one thing that most people don't realize is that in this game, it is pretty dark. You can see that there is a lot of fog. So what you can do is you can grab from your right shoulder and you can grab this up. I've realized a downside from this though is that, first of all, you aren't able to sprint with this. So you can try running and sprinting, but it just doesn't work. So for me, the best bet is to just sprint along the path so you can get to where you need to go. And the game isn't that dark, okay? So it should be mostly, for the most part, fine. So let's just go ahead and grab this, and let's grab this. Now, something else I want to talk about in the game is these red pots and other, items that you may have seen. Of course, these are items that are destroyable. So if I bonk this with whatever device I have, sometimes they can give me a piece of hay bale, which of course I can then use to purchase different items. So let's continue on our journey here. And of course, one of the most useful things is that if you're moving forward and you're holding down the A button, you're able to move twice as fast. The only downside is that you cannot carry any items while you're doing this. So this is of course a little bit of a downside, at least to me. And so another thing that you can see right here as well is that these guys are none the wiser at the moment. So I have two ways of attacking these enemies. Either I can go ahead and grab my arrow from the right hand side, and what's super useful sometimes is that if the enemy is particularly like a big skull creature, which you'll see in a moment or you may have seen, I would usually just fire some arrows off to try and get them down a bit, and I would just then engage them. So I would maybe use my arrows a bit. So you can see right there, I know I'm going to be fighting an archer in a minute, so I know I can use an arrow here and I can hit that one and he's going to be down a bit, and then you can see this immediately alerts them to my presence. So as soon as they jump in, you always want to make sure that you do hit that block, and then of course you do move back from any kind of things that happen, because they do come in with their attacks. And the most easiest thing that you can do in this game to save yourself is just block, because when you block, you're able to really have a lot more sustain in the game, and it's super useful if you're trying to play the game with sustain, because there are a lot of things that can kill you. So blocking is just by moving your bat in the direction that the hit is coming. If the hit's going to come from above, you want to have your bat at this level. If it's going to come from the side, put it that way. If it's coming from the right side, put it that way. And that's basically it. Now, it's a lot harder to do in practice, and you can't block projectiles, and sometimes it doesn't work because there is just chaos and maybe the model clips. But I'm going to show you guys now. This thing should jump at me. Usually the first attack, they jump, and then I'm going to hit block, but it didn't attack. Then usually it might swing from left to right. Usually you just have to anticipate that. And then when it does, you just try and block it and then go on the full offensive. So I blocked that one. And sometimes they do like two. So from left and then from right. And then you can see, since my weapon actually has a stun on it, I'm able to actually successfully get a lot of damage off in a few seconds. And so when they do two swings, that's when sometimes you want to go back in for some extra damage. So blocking is super useful, and the game doesn't tell you that you do need to block, but it is super useful. And these guys, honestly, oh, okay, just got to get back a bit there. You do have to watch out for these guys, because these guys do shoot projectiles. So the aim of the game with these critters is to ideally just not hit them from a distance. I mean, they are some of the weakest guys, those ones that are up there, and you can easily avoid their projectiles. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be fighting him and him at the same time, because that just results in a lot of danger. So when you're fighting him, you usually want to just run off to a corner or so. This guy will follow you around, and then you are basically able to fight them, you know, one by one, because it's a lot harder to do that. So you can see right here, I'm actually kind of struggling with this guy. Okay, he's going to go left, then he's going to go right, and then we get that. You can see there, I'm able to just finish him off before he's able to finish me off. So considering my health is a little bit low here, I am going to just not take any precautions. I'm going to grab my arrow, and then I'm going to just aim it towards the top, just sort of eyeballing it here. I probably might actually miss. And then you can see it's one, okay, that's two, and now I can just rush in and just finish him off. So of course, opening chests, you can see that sometimes you can get a new item. This one had a lot of damage, and if you ever want to compare two different items together, you can essentially just hold the B button, and then once you hold the B button, you're essentially able to see exactly what's going on. So now that I'm holding the B button, you can see that I've got, you know, this item here compared to that I'm here, and you can see the different things. So this one has 5 times damage on the combos, and this one has 3 times damage. So it's different weapons for different things, but I think depending on your playstyle, you know, it depends on what you want to do. Now, another thing as well is, like I spoke about those red things, is that you can use these items to open these and get these hay bales. These hay bales are super useful for buying cosmetics, and that's all they're really useful for. So if you ever see any boxes around, sometimes they'll be in a corner there, you'll be able to break those boxes. Now here, you can see we have a situation on our hands. Multiple different people, multiple different challenges, and we got a little box down there that we will open soon. So another thing I found that to be super useful, these guys don't seem to be able to jump over fences that well. So you can just kind of hit the fence and then move back sometimes. Whoa, okay. These guys, clearly in a situation here, so I'm going to just grab, there we go. So sometimes when you kill these creatures, you will get a choice between the heart and the blue one. The blue one essentially just restores all of your spells. So anytime you use a spell, you know, you run out of mana, which is essentially your energy, I guess you could say, or your points. So since I'm actually low on health, I can check this on the menu. You can see that my health isn't full, but my mana's full here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the health bar. And I mean, realistically, I really wish I could store these, but we can't. So I'm just going to go ahead and, you know, grab these because you can't really store them there. And even for this, you can't really store it in your inventory, so you just have to grab it while you can. So if you're ever fighting and you know you have those guys here, definitely want to make sure you're moving side to side, because those guys can and will hit you. So in order to drink your potion, literally just do the drinking motion. And these guys, usually when you get up close and personal, they're usually pretty terrible. And somehow you can block their attacks, and they do get stunned usually. See right there, if I just put it up like that. So when their spear is up, you want to put whatever weapon it is that way, and then you'll be able to, you know, not bants, but hit that right off, okay? So see here, right now I'm just going to go straight in for the attack because he doesn't even know what's going to hit him. And then of course, he's actually fallen off there, so I'm just going to follow him down. I'm just going to hit as many attacks as possible, and there we go. So sometimes I find that super useful is that you can just wiggle your weapon and you get a lot of slashes really quickly. And of course, these red things, we can open them, get some stuff. These you can't open. And then yeah, here, once again, open these, and then here we just open these with a grip button, and then you can see we've got a new weapon that has lightning and 4 times damage. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab these. Of course, always compare the weapons, see what we're able to get. This is a tier 2, so it's clearly going to be better than this one. So now our journey, and then once again open up this chest, and this is a mana potion, so we want to open up our inventory because we don't actually need it yet. We just want to store it in one of our inventory slots. So if we're ever running slow, not slow but low on mana, then we can go ahead and do that now. So once again, if you see any boxes, just make sure you grab those. I mean, they're not necessary, but like, it's just cosmetic stuff, so if you ever want to grab that, you can grab that. So these are basically things that just kind of like enchant you. So you can see this gives you +1 sword base damage, and a sword has a 25% chance to dizzy. So that means if you're doing a combo, they're able to dizzy. And this you know, is mana goober, so you get recessful mana charge on a successful block. So I think this one is going to be super useful because I block a lot, and that's going to be super useful when it comes to using my spells. And I mean, spells are pretty fun, but the only problem is that, you know, you do run out of mana sometimes. There we go. And so I probably will use my spells on these guys. You can see there that just froze them, and that was a spell right there. And so here we're getting off some free hits because it slows them down a bunch. And so this one's super useful. But for the spells, you usually make sure that you kind of want to save it for your boss battle. Yeah, and you can see there that my hits as they're getting hit, I'm actually managed to recover all of that mana that I just lost in very small increments. So it's super, super useful depending on your playstyle. So I probably will get these ones again, just because Greater Ice Spikes is the only thing that I know how to actually use. For some reasons, I'm not sure if it's just my client or whatnot, but every other spell, every other one for me just simply doesn't work. Hopefully it does work for you guys, but I know for me, any sort of motion that I do, any basic sort of spell that I, try and do, maybe I'm doing the movements weird, but it just doesn't work for me. So I don't know what I have to do. Okay, I think I did do it there, but that wasn't my intended thing. So this is where we have our first boss. And so the best way I can describe the spell that I do is like pushing someone away. I don't want to do the motion now, but it's kind of like pushing someone with an underarm. Like you're throwing a basketball underarm, but you're gently pushing someone out of the way. That's the best way to describe it. So you can see Troll Modir Gryla. This is one of the bosses. I still haven't defeated this boss. It's still very hard to do so. And I think the best way you can do so is by dealing ranged damage and just, consistently, managing and monitoring your health. And just being, so when you see that, that usually means you have to get out of the way, because that is just something that you simply are just going to die by. So keep an eye on the big one if you can. It is very hard, that's why it's a boss battle, and I still haven't got to the frozen lands just yet. So the key that I can give you guys here, and the only reason I haven't been able to do this is because my setup here is pretty bad. The thing that I would say is you have to just consistently move. You cannot stay still at all. And this is super, super frustrating because these little grunts chase you around. And when these grunts chase you around, it is super annoying because you're getting attacked by like 5 people and then you've got a big one right there. You can barely attack. But it is doable. The best thing I can say is utilize your spells, because it's very easy to die and, go down. So I'm going to just have my bow and arrow here. See if I can fire some shots off. I think I might be out of arrows here. I'm just kind of... Oh, I'm so screwed. So when you die and you respawn in, you can definitely go ahead and recheck whatever weapons you have. Usually you're always going to be getting a tier 0 weapon. It is pretty unfortunate, but if you die, you have to respawn. And so you have to just grab a weapon and then of course break down this. And then usually you just set off on your journey again. Now, this is something I want to show you guys. This is basically the Cosmetic Store. I already bought this thing right here. So if you want to check how much you have, press the B button and then you'll see the hay bales, how much hay you have, and you can see all of these items are in hay. And then of course you can put on some helmets. I do believe that these first 2 ones are completely free, and then the other things that you want to have you can completely do. So if you want to just put it on like that, and then he'll usually say something which is kind of funny. So I mean, it's pretty funny. But if you want to see what you actually look like, you just look at this thing. So for example, let's say I wanted to put on the red helmet. I grab the red helmet and put it on. You can see now it switches to red. So if you want to see what your outfit is like, there is that. And that's basically the main reason for these. These are just cosmetics, and I'm not really sure because you can't really see yourself. I don't know if there's multiplayer on this game or not, but yeah, that's why you're collecting these small things. So there's not really much here as well. This is just atmosphere. And so, when you die, you just start your journey again. And usually sometimes there is this, which is super useful. So if you ever want to, practice your attacks, blocking without actually, going through the game, this is where you want to do it. So for example, and this won't damage your health. Look, my health stays completely fine. So this is something that is like completely useful for beginners. So when you die, and you died during battle, try and just learn how to block with this. So I'm going to show you guys how to block. So it's coming from the left, so I hit left. It's coming from the angle, so I angle my sword. Then it's coming from the side. I should have hit the side again. But you can see angle, hit it at an angle. When it's coming from the left, it should just honestly hit it. See, once again, sometimes you do get the stun effect, and that's when you want to go as crazy as possible. And so you can see it's coming from the side. I hit it once again. It's coming from the top. I angle it so it hits the top. It's coming from the side. I hit it again. It's coming from this way. You can see I wasn't fast enough that time, but you do have to be a little bit quick to be able to do it. And you can see that. Another thing as well is that when you block enough, you'll be able to see at the top there's a yellow bar underneath, and you can see that yellow bar is going to just slowly get down and down. So when that continues to get down, they're going to get stunned. You can see again, and you can see boom, it's now down. Now it's going to get completely stunned, which is super cool. So that is essentially the blocking. So if it's coming from the left side or right side, if it's above, you basically just want to turn your bat You don't want to have your bat stationary ever. You basically want to put your bat towards it as if you were going to block, and the game recognizes it and you're able to move forward. So that is how you block as well. So once again, that is that. And yeah, so I mean,